Hello, hello.
What up, though? What up, though? Legend Soul Podcast once
Welcome
again.
back.
Every Wednesday. You guys know what time it is. As always, we are here to talk about current events, highlight role models, community leaders, people in our area that are making a difference, entrepreneurs, and also kind of shed some light on the Black and Asian community to kind of dispel rumors and propaganda and kind of hopefully bring everybody together on a positive note.
Yes.
Man, we can't, we usually go over current events right now, and everything is, just as bad as it was when I went on that rant 2 weeks ago about gun violence and what's going on. We have again another one. This is even
again today.
Right, even worse, children, which just boggles the mind. You can't really say anything about what's going on in the world right now. We have hate crimes being perpetrated. We have mass shootings. We are in a war. A lot of stuff to kind of digest. But what we wanted to do, I told you we were going to bring on some individuals who I believe can kind of bring insight and different viewpoints to this topic, because it's a hotly debated topic about gun control.
Yes.
And I definitely can see two sides of the coin as far as people wanting rights versus the safety of society as a whole. So what we wanted to do is get some people who I felt would kind of shed light and give viewers a different aspect into this highly debated topic. So without further ado, let's start bringing on our guests.
Yes. So we have Marlon Dorsey, a gun advocate. Welcome, Marlon.
Wait. Let me do a disclaimer, because Marlon was like, gun advocate. When did I become Rambo? And it's not that at all. He is a very good friend of mine, a very intelligent gentleman, has been working for the government for the past 20 plus years. But he does own a few guns. I would say a few.
Gun owner, maybe?
Well, he's not just a gun owner. See, I feel a gun owner is maybe one gun, maybe two guns. But when you have 33 guns, then no, he has a couple. He has probably about 4 or 5 guns, 6, something like that. But I seen the transformation of him just getting a gun for protection, make sure nobody break into the house, to going to the gun range and becoming more proficient with the gun and kind of learning more about firearms and things of that nature. So now, to a certain degree, he is a go-to person that I might go to if I have a question. And I was looking at different guns to purchase. That was my go-to guy to kind of give me instruction.
But he was also in the service, yeah.
And as well as military service. So gun advocate, I believe, is a badge of honor as opposed to a detriment. But okay, continue to move.
All right. After that, we have Sabrina Alberts, licensed clinical social worker, owner of Stonecatchers Counseling, as well as we also have Mark Garner, CEO of Absolute Security Group, also joining us tonight. So we're going to do a panel discussion to just talk about the current events, the mass shootings, how it relates to mental health, everyone's point of view as to where they stand, and so we'll hear everyone's viewpoints.
And my thought process behind this, I just explained my rationale behind bringing Marlon on. Brought Mark on because he is immersed in this. He not only has a security company where he provides personal and professional security, as well as security for organizations. He was just they assisted in the security for the NAACP when they were just in Grand Rapids. So, and also he does practical training as well. So I believe that he gives a broad aspect on guns because he deals with guns on a daily basis. Finally, with Sabrina, not only is she a trusted person in our community, a doctor, but also she is more of, everybody uses mental health as kind of the background of why we're having all of these episodes. So to get someone that is an expert in, behavior and why people do the things they do, and to get her take on that, I believe is a good thing as well, because there has to be a mental component to this for people to act in this way. So that's why we assembled the team that we have. What's going on, everybody?
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Welcome.
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
Now, first, let's first dig into a basic question. There are a lot of places in the world where it's extremely hard to get a firearm. It's not depending on where you're at, but it's not as hard here. And first, let me just get a general take on you guys on, do you think that we should be allowed access to guns in America? Everybody else I'll go with you, Marlon. What do you think?
Well, I was thinking about that earlier, before I came on, as far as guns and what Canada just did and things like that. I meant to get some research and some background on that. I'm not sure on our guns are like from something that we had nothing to do with, but something that was written in the Constitution. So it's been that thought process all along, as far as owning a gun and having the right to bear arms, and to that extent. So I don't know what any other country or what they operate off of, but I mean, should we? I guess it's hard to say. At one point, I would never thought I would have been a gun owner or own as many guns as I own, but we went through a process, in my opinion, to where we had a leader that made our country a little bit unstable. So I didn't want to be outside of that area that everybody had put themselves in already. So I had to change my state of mind. And as I've told you many times when we've talked about owning a gun, it took me a while to get to that frame of mind to feel that I was mature enough to own a gun, because that has a lot to do with it. Right. As we've known, the last few incidents that has happened in our country has been, some young men that have basically that weren't stable. So that, in my opinion, there, I mean, should we have a gun? I really, at one point, I would say it doesn't matter. Now I say, yeah, you should. You probably should. You probably should have a gun because of the way society is.
Mark, what is your thoughts on it?
I believe world history has taught us a valuable lesson when it comes to firearms. And the short answer for it, in my opinion, is absolutely we should have the right to be able to own firearms, 100%. Now, that's a loaded question, because with rights come responsibilities on each individual owner as well. But the short answer, should we be allowed to own firearms? Absolutely, 100%. As my brother Marvin brought up, it goes back to the Constitution, but like a deeper meaning behind the Second Amendment is, citizens are allowed to keep and bear arms in case they need to overtake a radical government.
Right.
Is the point of it. And when there's rogue government or dictatorships, look at Germany and what they accomplished in World War II. The first thing that they did was disarm the entire civilian population. And by doing so, they were able to murder millions of people and overtake numerous countries. So I believe wholeheartedly, yes, we should have the right to own firearms, but with that right also comes responsibilities.
Sabrina, what's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, I do think that people should be able to own a gun. Again, if there's a certain level of responsibility. There was a point where long time ago where I was very against guns. And then I did a lot of research because I teach social problems, and I was forced to look at both sides of every issue. And it showed that places that had the strictest gun control laws, like Chicago, had one of the highest crime rates because the only people that were armed were then the criminals, right? So then the citizens were left, without any sort of protection, right? So that's when I really learned, and like there's a lot of videos that show like the different cities that have these very strict gun control laws, and when they loosened them and citizens were actually able to buy guns and protect themselves, crime actually went down, because then you're not going to necessarily go up and want to rob somebody that has the possibility to be armed, right? I mean, it completely changes it when you're breaking into somebody's house and, whether they have a firearm or if they don't, what that dynamic looks like. But, there is a certain level of training and things like that need to go into it to make sure that there's a level of responsibility around that, and we're doing what we need to do to keep society safe.
Right. Now, let me go back to a couple of points that Mark had made, because I feel that needs to be, we can expound on that. Is that so? I'll play devil's advocate and say, one, I do believe that we should be able to own firearms, the basic of firearms. So I'm talking hunting rifles, handguns, shotguns for hunting, but things that are above that line, I don't believe anyone would need. But I do believe that if you wanted to, there should be a process to own one where, like, you have to go to the Department of Justice and fingerprint it and serial numbers, and you're responsible. So that means if something happens with this gun, you're the person that is to blame for that. So I can bend in certain situations, but a lot of people use the Constitution as the de facto reason why we should have guns. Now, that's why I push back on. Number one, the reason why that was put into the Constitution is that all we had was the Army. We didn't have law enforcement, so to speak, at that time in each town and village. So when something happened, what you had to do is go round up all the men, get armed, and go deal with whatever is happening to you at the time. So basically what it was saying is everybody should keep a gun at home, because if something happens in the town, we all got to come out here and fight for our town. Even in the Old West, they used to do that with sheriffs, when the sheriff would just deputize all the men, and we would go and take care of whatever responsibility we had to take care of. Two, the Constitution is a living document, which means that we've made changes to the Constitution throughout the years when we became smarter, more mature, and learned to view things in different ways. Slavery was a part of the Constitution in its initial draft. So we've made changes to the Constitution. So to say, well, it's in the Constitution, so that's my right. I believe gun ownership is a privilege as opposed to a right. And if you say it's because of a right, because of the Constitution, then we can go through all the amendments that we've had throughout time and see exactly why we made these amendments if the Constitution is not a living document in itself. So I kind of take out that portion of it's in the Constitution. My thing is everybody should be able to defend themselves. So if somebody breaks into my house, or I'm not hearing somebody break in and the girls and my wife is here, I don't want her trying to fist fight nobody. If somebody comes into my home, I want us to be able to defend our home. Do I think that if you want to, you should be able to walk around with an AR slung over your shoulder just because it's in the Constitution? I believe that's where the immaturity of our society is that it's not enough to have or own a gun, but I want to show y'all I got a gun. I want to show y'all that I'm sticking y'all nose in it. And that's why I say, in my opinion, I texted Sister Marlon the other day, I don't think our society is mature enough to have a proliferation of guns to that degree, where I think it's 3 guns for every 1 person in the world. I mean, in the United States or something crazy like that. We are not mature enough as human beings, as a society, to have access to an instant death weapon like a gun is. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, like you said, I mean, I mentioned that at first, that the last few incidents that we've had has been guys that are very young at age. So, and the first thing I said or thought about is my aggressiveness, as far as road rage, just things like that. That once you look at the numbers and the amount of people who have guns, and we don't know their state of mind, their maturity, or anything. I mean, we see every day something on TV or Facebook or something. Like I think I seen a guy the other day on Facebook shooting through his windshield at another guy riding on the expressway. I mean, like you said, it takes maturity to have a gun is the first thing I thought about. So I agree. Yeah. I mean, but I don't think that has anything to do with the money that's being generated and the NRA that's controlling it. That's the problem. I mean, I can think of several, not situations, but resolutions to the problem. But it's bigger than several years ago when this first started happening. You can't tell me that either of us, anybody on this in this conversation right now, didn't think that sooner or later something was going to be drawn up or something was going to happen with guns. When long time ago, not sure how
Taliban happened.
Right, exactly. Young, and we think like, okay, yeah, they're going to control guns sooner or later. I'm not going to lie to you. Only reason that I took an interest in ARs is because they let everybody else buy them. And as I said, I don't want to be the one left out.
Right.
The guy next door has one, and things hit the fan. I want to be able to have one too. So, but it did interest me. So at that point, I bought another one. I can't tell you why, but I did.
And see, that's another aspect of it is that I feel that, and this isn't indicative of you guys, but it feels like there's a sense of excitement or power with the gun. Not to say that you're going out trying to bully nobody, but just internally, as a guy, I'm thinking, I'm letting off a few rounds at a range that's exciting, that's powerful to a certain degree. What are your thoughts, Mark? You use guns, on a consistent basis.
The way that I teach my students, I tell people straight up. The example I use is if you're walking down the street and you see a man hit a woman and you don't have a firearm and you're like, ain't my business, you keep walking. If you see that same individual the next day strike that female, but you have a firearm and then you want to interject yourself into it, that's the type of person I don't want having a firearm, because that's not a person who's prepared to use a firearm. I believe the person who owns and carries a firearm for self-defense has to adapt a certain mentality. And a key word is what you said, and it's maturity. I have nothing to prove to anyone. Right. So I carry a firearm everywhere I go. I'm licensed all over the nation. Mm-hmm. And no one knows I have a firearm. Right. No one needs to know. It's a tool. It's there. If I have to defend myself, it's not there for show. Mm-hmm. It's not there as my pet, and what you were talking about, I agree with you. With individuals in Michigan, it's called open carry. Right. Guys that walk around with AR strapped to their back, just walking down the street. Right. I think that's foolish and ignorant, and it's immature. And that should be a blatant sign to people that this isn't someone that probably should have a firearm. And that's my opinion. I'm a huge firearm supporter. Right. But I think it's common sense as well. There's no need for that. But then to support what Marvin said, and in my line of work, we engage with different levels of threats. Mm-hmm. And if an individual attacks me or my team or my client with an AR, I don't want to have a pistol to be defending myself against that rifle. I want a rifle just like what he has, or something bigger. If he has a rifle, I want a bazooka, because I want to go home, and that's literally how I look at it, truth be told. But I agree with you. There's definitely just, responsibility and maturity that comes along with being a responsible gun owner.
Right. Now, Sabrina, A lot has been brought up about the mental health of these individuals, but this is the part that I kind of find, I don't know, because yes, mental health is an issue in this, because anybody who thinks that I'm going to go shoot up a school
Has some issues.
has mental health issues. I mean, that's just par for the course. But what is the differential between criminal and mental health? I think I would say most, a lot of criminals, they are dealing with mental health issues, whether it be how they grew up, their parents, but we still seek justice from them because of the acts they committed. The last few people, they've been saying, well, they'd shown mental illness, and they did see a doctor and things of that nature. What's your thought process?
Yeah, so I mean, people have been talking about mental health a lot, and I'm really surprised at some of the feedback when they're saying like that the shooter had no diagnosed mental health condition, because there's a lot of people who don't have diagnosed mental health conditions because they don't have access to treatment. They don't have they can't afford treatment. They don't have health insurance to get treatment. There's cultural barriers because perhaps it's not encouraged to be able to seek out mental health treatment. So you can still commit horrific acts and be mentally ill without everyone being mentally ill having to be violent. And I think there's like a lot of absolutes being talked about in this situation instead of that two things can coexist at the same time. I'm very surprised that they would say that the shooter does not have mental illness. Like, he's got a series of holding up dead cats and throwing like cruelty to animals is one of like the strongest signs of conduct disorder. Like, you can't commit an act and not meet at least criteria for conduct disorder, if not trauma, social isolation, whatever that is. So a lot of things can exist at the same time. Like, even Psychiatric Times was saying that he's not mentally ill, he's a terrorist. But if you're a terrorist, you're also mentally ill, right? Like that would be your lifestyle, that you would be. And terrorists have OCD, right? They're completely obsessed with trying to take somebody down. That's obsessive compulsive nature, right? So I mean, I think that to say that if someone isn't diagnosed and therefore they're not mentally ill is just really surprising, because it doesn't take a lot of things into consideration. It just assumes that everyone has access to treatment and can afford it, and just can walk into a therapist's office at any time, and it's just not the case.
Right.
Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm so glad, Sabrina, that you pointed that out, because that is such a big factor to it, that people believe that mental health is just available to everyone, and truly it's not. And my personal opinion is one of the biggest failures in America is we've turned to law enforcement to deal with mental health,
Right.
and as well as socially. With the advancement of technology and social media, now people who are dealing with mental health aren't willing to come forward because they're going to be so judged publicly now.
Right.
And so therefore they don't reach out to people to get this help. And, just being frank and honest, these individuals that shoot up these schools, it's not the star football player. It's not the quarterback. Right. It's the kid that's in the corner by himself that has no social skills and isn't dealing with anyone, isn't involved with anyone. The people who do this, the students aren't surprised that it was that person who committed this atrocity.
Right.
That's part of the problem as well. No one's willing to speak out and go, hey, this young man, this young woman needs help.
Yeah.
Right. Parents are calling the cops on their kids for mental health issues now. They're not taking them in to get treatment because of affordability, availability, and things of that nature. So I think America's failed miserably with how it handles mental health.
Yep.
Now, most of the people who perpetrated these acts were young. What age do you think is appropriate to introduce your son or daughter to a firearm?
So for me in my household, I literally started training all of my kids at the age of 4 years old. Now that might sound aggressive to people, but it was with a little 22. It's called a cricket rifle. I still have one in my safe. It's a 22. It's very easy. It's very lightweight. And the reason that I started them at such a young age is because that's the most dangerous thing about being a firearm owner, is being a parent.
Right.
no matter who you are, you're going to make a mistake sometime. Where you're going to leave a gun out, you're going to leave it in your closet unsecured, and your kids are going to play the hey, let's find daddy's gun game.
Right. Right.
And to me, I've always believed that curiosity kills.
Right.
So kids will do those things and try to find a gun and play with a gun because as parents, you haven't taught them to respect said gun.
Right.
So I started with my kids at a very young age of just shooting a little 22, not at animals or anything, but just target practice. And as they got older, I expounded on their training to where they're comfortable with a firearm. They're not curious, what does this do? They know what it does and they respect it. Now, they still don't have access to my firearms, but they know at any time they can say, hey, can we go shooting? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Marlon, I know that you, my goddaughter, I know you took her to the range and was teaching her about guns. What do you think an appropriate age for to learn about guns? I won't say own a gun because I don't think a child should own a gun for a while, but to at least learn about guns.
As he said, any if you have the knowledge and you can do it with a 4-year-old, then albeit, because not in a race issue, but we see a lot of European people teach their kids at a very young age. They take them hunting, make them very aware of firearms. And a lot of times when we hear of these situations happening, a lot of times it's in the Black community, like he said, where it's find the gun or somewhere in, I'll take my area where I grew up, Flint, where, they may carry a gun for protection, may not be a registered pistol, but they may just carry a gun just because the area that you stay in, what you do, how you do it, whatever. I don't know. But a lot of times those kids will see that, gun and like he said, play, I wonder what he do with that gun. I wonder where he put that gun. And now you have a situation. So I took my daughter and made her familiar with firearms for that reason. So I always tell her, if you're ever over someone's house and they come out with a gun, I don't care where you are, who you're with, make sure you let them know that you're knowledgeable. Hey, is that on safety? Hey, don't point that there. Hey, don't put your hand on the trigger. Little things that I've taught her. I've told her, hey, you make sure you tell them that. And if they're not listening, then you get out of there. Leave. Because they don't know what they're doing and it's a dangerous situation. So that's why I decided to teach my daughter about it.
What about you, Sabrina? What do you think?
I agree with both of them. Like early training, like we always talk in mental health about early intervention, like intervene as early as possible. And that's the same thing with any type of training. So you're familiar, you're knowledgeable, you know how to respond, you know what to do. I mean, it would probably reduce a lot of the gun deaths that we have that are accidental because of lack of training.
Right.
Now, we are the capital in gun ownership. In the world, which is kind of surprising considering that some countries are kind of in wars and war torn and things of that nature. But we have a lot of guns in our country. And me and Marlon was having a discussion about, even if they wanted to reduce the amount of guns, how could they do it? Because number one, having a buyback is voluntary in nature. And then two, we've already heard it. Ain't nobody taking my gun, or they're taking my guns from my cold dead hands. And we've heard that response already. Canada, and then I sent them another article. It was either Austria or Amsterdam that did a mandatory buyback in the country. Got a lot of guns off the street, and their murder rate dropped by like 40%. So I'm not saying that is the correct response, but does anybody know how we could go about reducing the number of guns, considering how many that's already out there? Like you guys said, if somebody else has a military style weapon, I want a military style weapon, so we can be on even playing fields. So how can we reduce the amount of guns? Because obviously, if we have a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio as far as guns in America, then that kind of seems like it would be too many guns in our country. So what do? I mean, do we do mandatory buyback? Do we just say everybody has to be more mature? What's our answer for how many guns? Because the statistics usually go, we have a lot of car deaths because we have a lot of cars on the road. So extrapolating, we have a lot of guns in the country. So therefore, we do have a lot of gun deaths. So what is our solution to reducing the amount of guns?
My concern with it is, how can I word this? It's not a matter of how many. To me, it's who has, because you can do buybacks. You can come in and take firearms, but you're only going to get the firearms that are registered and are in the home of legal gun owners.
Right.
If no matter what legislation we come up with, criminals aren't going to go, damn, I got to turn my gun in now.
Right.
And that's my biggest issue with it, is the only guns you're going to take is from the people like myself and Marlon, because we're the law-abiding population.
Well, what about slowing down manufacturing of the gun?
Right. I'm all for it. I got everything I need. So,
Well, you're different. You work in the industry, so of course there would be a different aspect.
Right.
Well, their firearms go up, so now the price increases. Now ammunition increases. So now that industry that now used to be a sport, I mean, I guess if you're trying to eliminate the process, I guess you could try that. But there'll still be people out there who do it, who will get involved, because just recently with, like I said, when I purchased my guns, it was because I purchased one and it became just something that I enjoy, So, but the first one I purchased, it was because of our country was falling apart for a second, and I wanted to protect myself, and if I can come protect somebody else as well, then so be it. But at the same time, this gun buyback is impossible for one, because there will be so many people who's not going to take their gun and sell. That's not going to happen.
And it might not. I'm sorry.
Slow down manufacturing is a good idea, though. That's a great idea, but like I said, that's going to make guns and ammunition very expensive.
Mm-hmm. I think what will help, and it might not be a popular opinion, but I honestly believe more unity between community and law enforcement. That's a big one, in my opinion, man. Is we need more people in the community to be willing to talk and deal with law enforcement. We need more law enforcement willing to deal and be a part of the community. When crimes are happening, most people know who did it, what happened,
right,
and no one wants to say anything.
Right.
But just like, they no snitching. Mm-hmm. But I have the same argument with law enforcement. Well, you want them to tell on their neighbors. You tell me who the 2 worst cops in your department are.
Right.
You won't. So it's a double-edged sword, and we get nowhere. If we want to reduce crime, we got to start working together. Is the biggest. I don't believe. Yeah, we have a gun violence problem in America. There's no doubt about it. But Europe should teach us as well that if someone wants to cause harm, they're going to use whatever tool is necessary. In Europe, they're driving trucks in the crowds of people and killing them. We're not banning U-Haul trucks. We're not confiscating cargo trucks. So I just don't believe taking firearms from people is going to help. I think conversation like this, I think unity between community and law enforcement and building a trust is one of the best ways, as well, more importantly, individuals like Sabrina and their knowledge and expertise, working with kids from a young age. These kids that are committing these crimes, these mass atrocities, like she said, if you go back, it's so common. They come up from broken homes, abusive homes, and all sorts of issues that just get overlooked until it explodes. Now we're dealing with the aftermath of it. You know, I think it's something that we just have to get a hold of when people are younger and start building unity.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this a couple of episodes ago too, is the fact of having a stricter training for police and police officers where they have to be required to go through mental health training and things like that. Or if they come into a situation, to also have clinical social workers on staff, on duty, to deal with these types of situations too.
And I'll go to Sabrina with this one, but okay, me playing devil's advocate, I would say people has always grown up with strife in their lives. They've always grown up with pitfalls, some worse than others, throughout our lives. I mean, we all grew up during the crack era, and mass violence because there was crackheads around, and things of that nature. So I believe everyone grows up with trauma that is in part somewhat makes you who you are because of the trauma that you've overcame in your life. Mm-hmm. So why is it so prevalent now, mass shootings, as opposed to 20 years ago?
Is it because social media? We didn't have.
Well, my thought is, I still come back to we pump so many guns into this country that, to the point of Mark's point about the truck, you used an object that was not intended to kill, and you can do that with a knife in the kitchen. So that's a little bit different than having something that was designed and manufactured to kill. Now, whether that is another human being, whether that is an animal for food, regardless of the case, a gun is meant to kill whatever you point at it, as opposed to someone grabbing a steak knife and killing somebody. That wasn't designed for that purpose. They utilized that for something else. But if we're putting so many objects that are designed to kill into our country, then you have to expect that there will just be more opportunities and instances like this. So what is your thought, Sabrina?
So I think when you talked about why is it happening now, I think, 2 kids did it back in Columbine, and it's just been copycat central then. It's like, no one is ever going to forget those kids. Everyone knows
we have more mass shootings this year, and this year isn't over with, than in the last 15 years.
Sure.
So there's something different now. There's something in the equation now that is different than 15 years ago, when we've already reached a plateau of mass shootings, and the year ain't even over with.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think people really struggle with resiliency overall, right? Like completely falling apart like during the pandemic and not trying to find ways to be able to work through it, right? Like not really being taught those skills from a young age about like how to work through difficult and challenging times. Right. And when we had that mass shooting in Columbine, it's been pretty consistent then. It's gotten really out of control now, but there have been mass shootings year after year after year that mass shooters glorify. They almost look up to people that do it and they admire them. And a lot of these shooters, when they go in their diaries and stuff, have like pictures of previous mass shooters that they look up to. Like it's almost like they're seeking some sort of identity to be remembered for the rest of their life because of this like emptiness or loneliness or lack of identity, whatever that is.
Right.
But I mean, it's certainly out of control now.
And I believe a lot of it also is the amount of attention that we give the shooters after the fact. A lot of these people are also attention-starved people.
Right.
They're copycats. They look, Dylan Klebold from Columbine. Look how that name is worldwide now.
Right.
Well, I'm a nobody at school now, but after said thing, everyone will know me. So I think the media and the publicity of it takes a really big toll on people as well. Example, last week we had the mass shooting in Texas at the school, right? Everyone knows about that horrible ordeal yet again. Do you know the very next day in Charleston, Virginia, a man tried to shoot up a party with an AR-15 and a woman who was legally carrying a firearm shot and killed him and stopped him?
Yep.
We never heard about that in the media.
Yep.
But we hear about the mass shootings nonstop.
Right.
A big part of it, the media is all about doom and gloom.
Right.
That's what gets everyone's attention.
Oh, yeah.
You never hear the good that comes
Right.
from a legal, law-abiding citizen
Yep.
stopping one of these attackers with a legal firearm. That happened the day after the Texas shooting. You never heard about it until I just told you, dang near.
Right. Right.
Wow.
Very true. Very true.
That is so true.
Yeah. So taking a look at it, all you guys, why don't you guys give me your short list of how you think that what we put into law will help the situation, whether that be money for medical health, whether that be sterner background checks or fingerprinting or registering your weapon. What are some of the ideas that you guys believe will help the situation?
So one, and I don't want to hog the comment
No,
section,
go.
guys. Y'all cut me off. One thing that I've always said, and a lot of gun supporters don't agree with me on this, but I don't care. To buy a pistol, you have to have a background check. You have to have fingerprinting. You have to be screened. You have to have all those things. If you buy a rifle or shotgun from a store, you have to endure that same process. However, if Marvin was in Michigan and I'm in Michigan,
Marlon,
my bad, bro.
No problem, bro.
If I wanted to buy one of his ARs from him, he doesn't have to check my background. I don't have to get fingerprinted because it's a person-to-person sale, and rifles and shotguns aren't registered. I am all for having the same registration for rifles and shotguns like you do pistols.
Right.
Anytime, if I wanted to buy one of Marlon's pistols, I would have to get a NICS check, a background check, and all of that.
Wow.
You know that. But if I wanted to buy your rifle, you could just sell it to me.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
I think that it should just be the same across the board because all legal gun owners, I have nothing to hide. I already own legal pistols.
Right.
I'll just buy the rifle legally and go through the same process. I think that is a loophole in the firearm purchasing arrangement. Now, again, I know some of my personal boys that are watching is like, man, no, it's our right. That's dumb. If you have nothing to hide, I have no problem having to register my rifles and my shotguns. I have no problem with that because, like you said, now it's my responsibility. If someone gets a hold of that and commits a crime, I should be held accountable because I didn't secure my firearms the way I should have.
Right. Marlon, what do you think should change, if anything?
It's kind of, to me, like a dead horse as far as the change, because it's like we've been beating this bad boy for a long time. Like I said earlier, I've never been one to think I would own guns like I own guns, but I do, and I now enjoy it. It's kind of like I was forced into enjoying it. So I don't think there is a resolution. So I can't even think of anything that I don't think there's going to be any laws that change because of the money that's involved in it. I think the NRA has their hands so tightly wrapped around political standings and political whatever, however they have their hand in it. Like someone brought up to me the other day that anytime we have someone in there, whether it be whoever, the NRA seems to get rid of them. They seem to replace that person, and there's a new person in there. And now this person is, in fact, for, what we were trying to fight. So something will go into place. It'll start a talk. I think Kurt, doing the NBA thing, he said that there's a law just sitting there. It's because the NRA won't let that law be passed. They have money. They're going to put somebody in there that's going to veto it or not vote against it or whatever happens to where they don't have to pass it. So I think that's a dead horse. I think that there needs to be processes put in place in certain areas like schools. I think there needs to be volunteers amongst the teachers and the principals and the staff that carry it, because I guarantee you, out of that staff, there's at least 20% that have their permit to carry. I guarantee you. So why not take those people, give them a little bit extra training? Like my man here in his training, why not sign them up and give them a little bit extra training? Some movement training.
Just think about that though. You're saying that teachers now we are not
just
all.
just those who volunteer. We'll put this out to everybody who feels like they want to volunteer. We'll put you through special training. If you, I mean, and you wear you'll have to wear a certain amount of clothes, so you'll have to wear that on you. You can't. We're not going to put this in a desk. We're not going to put this in a file cabinet. This is going to have to be on you all day. So if you decide to make this commitment, you got to make this commitment. You have to be somebody who we depend on, and you place these people in certain points in the school. So if it does go down, these people aren't at the forefront of the door. We want to stop the shooter to help save lives. So that's always their process. That's why they didn't run in there immediately, because the process, the thought is you want to save lives, but you're not necessarily going to save all the lives. That's a messed up thought to have, but I've heard police officers tell me that that's kind of their training. They just, when they go in to try to stop the situation, they want to save some lives. They don't necessarily think they're going to save all the lives. That's just how they're trained.
So we should have armed guards basically, because there's really no difference in having individuals set aside as.
You don't make them noticeable. You don't make them noticeable. Of course, you have to inform the parents in some type of way, but I think that's the only way you're going to stop them. She said it earlier. The only way that you stop somebody is to make them knowledgeable that it's something in there that may stop me. And if you get that first guy running
there, and where the kids are, like they do everything else with the metal detector.
But see, I feel that when we narrow it down and focus to schools, we're still not tackling the problem, because don't get me wrong, all of our children should be protected. But I'm saying that okay, they don't do the school, so now they go to the playground. They don't go to the playground, now they go to the YMCA, the local YMCA. They don't go there, they go to Toys R Us. So that doesn't solve the problem.
It doesn't. That's right. That was basically my first answer. I don't think there is a resolve because of the political pushback on the issue. So now, if
Sabrina?
So mine is equal access to mental health treatment, because if you get that, then you won't even be in the situation in the first place. Everyone can still have their guns, because the background check, that doesn't matter either, because a lot of these mass shooters would pass a background check. They hadn't been arrested, or they didn't have mental health diagnosis, so nothing would have stopped them from getting a gun in the first place. But committing the act could have been treated for whatever mental health issues they were struggling with. They could have gotten the support that they needed, and then it may not have happened. So, because I think a lot of times we already tried criminalizing drugs and doing all these things, and it didn't do anything for the drug war, right? And that's why they're legalizing it in a lot of different areas and just doing more training and education and teaching and things along those lines, or, and spending a lot of the money that they're getting from the taxes on weed to build treatment centers instead, right? Because it's treatment versus incarceration or things along those lines. So mine's all about equal access to mental health treatment, whether you have insurance, whether not, whether you're undocumented, documented, whatever that looks like.
And I mean, we still have to, I agree with you totally, but it's still to a point to where those people that did these things or these shootings these last few weeks, do we think that they would have reached out and gotten help? That's the scary thing. Will these people go out and seek that help?
Yeah. Well, I mean, did their parents try to get them to help? Is that part of the neglect that happened? Like holding up dead cats and everything, like no one tried to get you help? Like, I don't know how he went his entire life without getting a mental health diagnosis. Like, you can stop in an ER, you'll get it. You can see a school counselor and get it. Like, it was literally to not have a diagnosis. You literally had nothing ever. Like, I don't even know how that's possible. Like, how could that have happened? That is just so irresponsible and so neglectful for someone who is so hurt and so sad. Like, they couldn't call a therapist, but they called the police on him many times. They said the police were at the house all the time, right? So again, just like Mark was saying earlier, like, we're asking the police to do mental health. I mean, that's not their job to do that.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you one more follow-up question to that. When you see that it seems like there was neglect on the parents' part because of all the times that the police called and he made some drawings at school that was wacky, should there be accountability for the parents when this happens?
You know, I don't even know anything really too much about that situation. Like, did they even have the training? Do they even know about like the access to treatment, right? Like, if it was in law, like the original question, then people would know about it because it would be televised. They'd be talking about it. They would have stations set up. They'd have people to go to. But a lot of times, like, I don't know if mom even knew that that was an option, because that's how it can be in certain communities where it's not encouraged, it's not talked about, no one's doing it. And even if we did, we couldn't maybe afford it anyway, right? So putting it into law, that would definitely change the dynamics of it.
All right. So what I've gotten from this panel is that we should hire Mark's Absolute Security to patrol all of the schools, and then we all should take then we all take tactical training from his other business, so that we are well versed in our firearms. And everybody strap up.
I'm here all week.
Man. Hey guys, thank you very much, Marlon, Mark, and Sabrina, for coming on. Your opinion was very valued. I'm glad we were able to discuss this, out in the open, and everybody kind of get their views together. And I hope that this subject doesn't come up again in the near future, where we will have to revisit this. But I value your time, I value your opinion, and thank you very much.
Can I say something?
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Listen, guys. Pretty good. I love it when we get individuals, and this might sound bad, but this is the type of broadcast we have. It's also great that we have people of color that are experts in their field, that are able to kind of give us their viewpoint and what's going on, and kind of talk kind of as a community. That's not bad. But see, you can't really see the other. You'd have to take off the host so that you don't see that. We got some stuff that we have planned.
Oh, look,
recently.
and that was
that's what I'm saying. It's don't even stress it. But yeah, we got some more stuff coming on. You know what? But we're gonna start doing and I got this from like the Joe Budden podcast and a few other podcasts. We got all types of stuff that we've bought. We got a studio, we got hanging mics, we got lights, we got
everything,
backdrops. We got a place in our office where we have for this. So we're gonna start putting like the Cash App stuff on there and stuff like donations. Why not? We come and we share information and we give our time, and it would just cover costs. But that's for I got some other things I'm thinking of. But anyway,
this was from last week.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It happens so frequently that
we
almost can just keep this
on
and
here.
push this moving forward. This little template, but once again, it was great having everybody on. I love it when we can talk in layman's terms with experts and they kind of give us their opinion. It's kind of like the guy that I watch on the science guy I watch, Degrassi Tyson. The one that you be like, hey, why are he talking about black holes? But he makes science feasible in layman's terms. And that's what our experts did tonight. They kind of gave their opinion, the experts in their field, but they did it in layman's terms.
Right.
It also is lovely to me, once again, when I see people of color being experts in fields and giving their knowledge. So that's about all for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for taking the time to be with us and kind of go through some very, very depressing topics, but things that need to be discussed and talked about. And we will be back next week, same bad time.
Yeah, and I think maybe next week we can start talking about the Bachelor stuff, the fun stuff, because the news does a great job with depressing us. So maybe the next few podcasts we do fun stuff.
All right.
So I don't know who wants
still be
to volunteer to be the bachelor.
No, what we said we were gonna do is like a newlywed.
Yeah, we were gonna do like a newlywed, and we were gonna hook people up with dating stuff.
But see, you can't say who because
no, they won't see their face.
Right,
we're not gonna block their face.
Right.
One person can be the bachelor, one can be the bachelorette.
Right.
And then they're not gonna see the faces of the candidates.
Right.
Because let's have some fun. Like the news does enough job of like. I don't know about you, but watching the news, I feel some kind of way, and then I'm mad at the world. Like I'm just going off on my kids, and I'm just going off on my husband.
Just don't go off on me. I just talked to Marlon about the Jersey Mike's incident where we was talking about really all the violence, and they got my order wrong. And I was genuinely upset at that cat for that. But
that's what they do for ratings, and they don't celebrate the good stuff. So we need to start. Yes, we can announce the stuff that's going on, the current events, but we need to start celebrating also the good things that are going on in our communities. And, you know, like Mark said earlier, like the shooting that happened with the lady defending someone, you know, so start to, you know, showcase some of those things in our community as well.
I'm going to see Mark probably in the next couple of weeks because I'm going to take his training so I can strap up. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I mean, I got a foil card, but I want the tactical. I want to be to jump through the window, do the roll, come up on one leg, and be in perfect firing position.
I used to love shooting with my dad.
I've been married to my wife.
Young.
I've been married to my wife 15 years. This is the first time I heard her utter that I love shooting. I'm terrified.
With my father, he used to take me shooting. And he had like the hunting gun, and we would shoot cans. He taught me how to shoot cans. You never knew that?
I got a total criminal sitting next to me that I've been married to for 15 years.
It was in our backyard.
You can't just be shooting in residential neighborhoods.
No, it was a forest in the backyard. So
you can't be shooting in.
It was a forest.
Hey, if there are any police officers that are watching this, I don't know the statute of limitations, but
I was 10,
this
11.
was before my time. You can still go to jail. It was before my time. But yeah, we either gonna do like a newlywed.
It was a BB gun.
We're either gonna do newlywed game with like couples, or we're gonna do the bachelorette thing.
Yes.
But yeah, we will do something fun.
All
next
the single
week.
Ladies, all the single men, you know,
or all the married ladies, or the married men. How much do you know about your spouse? I guarantee. And first of all, I want to say to any couples that want to come on, this is all fun.
Yes.
Don't y'all start answering questions and then go down a dark path and y'all get to arguing and whatnot. Okay, this is all pure fun.
I knew everything about you.
You knew nothing. You didn't know my favorite color. You didn't know my favorite food. I'm surprised you knew my middle name. But anyway,
Marlon loves pho more than you, or he tried pho before you did.
First of all, you do not know what level that Marlon likes pho.
Yes,
it ain't like
he's had it before.
It ain't like he was like, oh, I love this 7 out of 10. He just said it was good.
He tried it before you.
He tried it before me.
And you've been married to
me. He also tried
time.
the papaya salad.
Yes, and he loved it.
No. Y'all asked him 1 pepper, 2 pepper, or 3 pepper. He said 3 pepper because he likes spices. Papaya salad. And I almost had to take him to the hospital. So that is a total different situation.
He liked it.
But anyway, like I said, we're gonna do
a newlywed. We'll find a bachelor.
He gonna text us. It was good. He can't even speak because his tongue's still burning from that papaya salad. But hey, we're gonna do something fun next time.
Bachelor party.
She want to do the bachelor because that's how women are. They like to be like in people's business when they dating and stuff.
We'll have 2 guys. We'll find 6 candidates, three, and then
I'm pushing for
half hour. We do one, the other half hour we do the other.
Newlywed game. Couples come on. We ask the questions.
That too,
Boom.
We did that, but let's do something different because someone asked for it. Remember the girl that asked for it that was single on here? Why are you guys just doing married stuff? I want to find a mate.
That is true.
So we gotta find her a mate.
We gotta find her a mate. I never thought I would say that out loud. All right, but anyway. All right, everybody. You guys have a good rest of the week. Yes. As I say, and it's prevalent now as it was when I first started saying this at the end of this, but watch your 6 out there.
Which means like the clock, 6 is.
Hey, I don't
I had
believe.
to ask.
I don't believe
him
that
what
had
that
to be
meant.
explained to her. Watch your 6 has to be
Hey,
explained.
English is
to
my
you.
second language.
Anyway, deuces, everybody. Peace out.
Bye.